Hey everyone, in this video I'm gonna read out an English translation of a letter that I wrote to a Korean journalist named Jung-guk from Hankyoreh. Of course, it's not an actual letter that I sent out or anything. It's just a letter in a video format that I made in Korean today. So what exactly happened? Jung-guk is a journalist who has written multiple articles about NewJeans, HYBE, and NewJeans over the past year. And he is clearly pro-NewJeans and anti-HYBE. It's basically at the same level as Lee Sun-myung from Gyeongyang, whom you might be more familiar with. Now, in the past year, he published a high-profile report accusing ILLIT of plagiarizing NewJeans' branding and concept. His article included heavily edited images that exaggerate the similarities. And as a result, it triggered a wave of hate against ILLIT. Even before any legal conclusions were made, I made a video about it 4 months ago, last year. You might be familiar with that. He also ended, but today, the same journalist published a new article saying that the media and public reaction to NewJeans has become strangely overheated. Now, he also ended the piece by bringing up the tragic passing of actress Kim Sae Ron, drawing a parallel between her death and the way NewJeans has been treated online. Yes, he really went there. So, in my letter, I talked about why that framing is problematic, and why his coverage has been inconsistent, and why I think it's important to call out double standards, not just in media, but in fandoms too. I try my best to keep it classy. So with that said, here's the full English version of my letter to journalist Lee Jung-guk. To Hankyoreh journalist Lee Jung-guk, I recently mentioned you briefly in a video I made about the NewJeans concert in Hong Kong, which you had flown out to cover. Honestly, I didn't expect I'll be bringing you up again this soon. In today's video, I want to speak to you directly in the form of a letter. I read your latest article published in Hankyoreh titled "The Strange Media Frenzy Around NewJeans. Has it ever been that long since Kim Sae Ron passed?" And to be completely honest, there are parts of the article I actually agree with. When NewJeans recently said in their Time interview, Korea is trying to turn us into revolutionaries, I anticipated the backlash it would cause. Right? I knew that creators and YouTubers who had stayed quiet during the NewJeans controversy would start jumping in again. And more than that, I knew the general public, especially those who lean toward nationalistic sentiments, would take offense to the comments. I expected they would react with a strong sense of anger and frustration and indignation and go after NewJeans with full force. That kind of emotional, overheated response is something I've seen time and again in Korean media culture. For years, I've had a skeptical view of the Korean press. A few years back, I even made a song calling out the media and online hate culture. And when BTS Suga was at the center of a media witch hunt last year, I released a video version of that song titled Song About Korean Media and Hate Comments. It was originally written years ago during the controversy around the artist IU's Zeze lyrics. But rereading my lyrics about that case or my reaction today, it's honestly sad to see how little has changed. If anything, the media culture has only gotten worse. So yes, when you brought up overheated public sentiment and sensationalized reporting in your article, I did find myself nodding in agreement to some extent. But, Mr. Lee, with all due respect, isn't it a little ironic that you are the one saying this now? For those who haven't yet read your latest article, let's take a closer look at it together. The strange media frenzy around NewJeans, has it ever been that long since Kim Sae Ron passed? By journalist Jung-guk of Hankyoreh. On the 23rd, I traveled to Hong Kong to cover NewJeans' performance at Complex Con. It's likely to be one of the most unforgettable moments of my reporting career. Of course, Mr. Lee, it is. You have shown quite a deep interest in NewJeans, having written a lot of articles about them for the past year. Back to the article. Originally, it was just a routine assignment to cover the show, but at the end of the performance, the members suddenly announced a halt to their activities, and everything erupted into chaos. I dashed out of the venue, sent in a breaking news alert via Kakao Talk, rushed back to my hotel, and filed the article in the middle of the night. It's rare for things to escalate that dramatically during an overseas assignment. On the flight back to Korea, I found myself thinking about everything that's happened with NewJeans. Where did it all begin? Where is it headed? The more I thought about it, the more bizarre the situation seemed. The issue itself is relatively simple. It's just the reaction that's spiraled out of control. Right. Wasn't it you who once said that all this fuss was simply because NewJeans' music was too good? But okay, let's move on for now. All right, back to the article. Let's start from the beginning. On April 22nd of last year, HYBE launched an audit into Heejin, the then CEO of Adore, claiming she was attempting a management takeover. HYBE's push to dismiss Heejin was temporarily halted by the court. On May 31st, the Seoul Central District Court sided with Min and granted an injunction preventing HYBE from exercising its voting rights to remove her. The court stated that the evidence provided by HYBE was insufficient to conclude breach of trust. After returning as CEO, Heejin offered a gesture of reconciliation during her second press conference, saying, "Let's all think about NewJeans' future together." Now, I gotta jump in. Although considering how much genuine respect Heejin actually showed the NewJeans members is questionable at best, so one has to wonder whose future she was really talking about, when she said, "Let's all think about NewJeans' future together." But we'll set that aside for now. Again, back to the article. Eventually, Adore's board found another route to force Heejin out, and she left the company, calling it a unilateral dismissal. Up until that point, NewJeans themselves had not been directly involved in the conflict. But on November 13th, the members stepped forward through a YouTube livestream, demanding that Heejin be reinstated and that certain issues be addressed. Adore did not accept their request. On November 28th, the members held an emergency press conference to announce they were terminating their exclusive contracts. In February, they revealed a new team name, NJZ, and began operating independently. On March 21st, the court sided with Adore and granted an injunction to stop their independent activities. Looking at the timeline, it's clear that this is still an ongoing legal dispute. To put it simply, the artists raised concerns, the company didn't respond, and the artists walked away from their contracts. Okay. The court has only issued an initial ruling. NewJeans has filed an objection to the injunction, and if the court rejects it, they plan to file an immediate appeal, a right guaranteed to all citizens under Korean law. Okay. If they lose, they must accept the consequences. The same goes for any public backlash that might arise. Still, it's hard to ignore how overheated things have become. HYBE-affiliated organizations like the Korean Music Content Association. Wait, did he? Oh, okay. Well, I mean, that association has many members, like all members, basically every member in major member company in the K-pop industry. But okay, let's read it again. Still, it's hard to ignore how overheated things have become. HYBE affiliated organizations like the Korean Music Content Association even held large-scale press conferences ahead of the ruling, fueling a public battle. Meanwhile, NewJeans Fandom submitted a petition with nearly 30,000 signatures in response. I have found myself writing about all this and thinking, is this really happening? More than once, I have felt completely disillusioned. Okay. One factor driving the frenzy is the media. Here we go. The keyword NewJeans performs so well on portal sites that every tiny update is being reported. And in the rush to push content, basic journalistic principles like fact-checking and giving both sides equal representation are often ignored. One notable example is a recent coverage of NewJeans' interview with Time magazine. Many outlets stripped the interview of context and zeroed in on buzzwords like revolutionary and disappointed. But if you actually read the full piece, the members were addressing deep-rooted structural issues in the K-pop industry. They acknowledged that it's not something that can change overnight and said that even though the fight is hard, they're proud to be part of it. Now, while I was filming the Korean version, I have found out that this journalist himself has written an article about it, and then guess what the headline was for that article? NewJeans, whose activities have been halted, says Korea is trying to make us revolutionaries. How ironic is that? All right, back to the article. The flaws in the K-pop system are nothing new. They've been discussed by countless media outlets and are a well-documented social issue. The ones turning a blind eye are the agencies, the groups that represent them, and some media that protect them. Look at recent shows like Under 15, now under fire for child exploitation, a direct result of K-pop's strict training systems and early debuts. Out of nowhere, he's mentioning that program. Yet, somehow, NewJeans' Time interview is being framed as anti-Korean. A lawyer turned YouTuber posted on social media claiming NewJeans had ignored the court and slandered the nation, and the post quickly went viral. I think for that one, he's referring to the Korean legal titan Kpop, right? Everyone's entitled to their opinion, but when mainstream media pick up and amplify that kind of rhetoric, painting NewJeans as anti-Korean, that's a clear violation of journalistic ethics. And the fact that even KBS, a public broadcaster, jumped on the bandwagon is a glaring example of just how broken entertainment journalism has become. Wow, he really said that. March 28th marks 40 days since actress Kim Sae Ron passed away. Okay, here we go. According to Korean tradition, the spirit moves on to the afterlife on the 49th day. Her passing left a deep scar on society, and her family has spoken out about how relentless online harassment, fueled by YouTubers and the media, played a major role in her death. We need to take that seriously. The current media and public hysteria surrounding NewJeans is eerily similar. It is time to take a breath. Okay, well, so, what do you think? I have read this article, and there's a AI that I've been using to gather data and analyze, right? So here's something that it came up with. Let's see if we agree with it or not, right? So your article criticizes the media and public for blowing the NewJeans situation out of proportion. But ironically, it spreads a new kind of media frenzy narrative by framing the reaction itself as irrational. Reducing the scale of this conflict to just the media overreaction deliberately downplays the actual weight of the situation, which is a legal battle and a massive contract dispute. Public outrage didn't arise solely from media coverage. It stemmed from inconsistencies in NewJeans' behaviors, misleading victim narratives, and repeated public provocations. The frenzy didn't come out of nowhere. 2. Blurring legal facts and moral responsibility. Yes, everyone is entitled to due legal process, right? And the court ruling was only a provisional injunction. But you emphasize that the court's decision is just the first ruling and that legal battles are right for everyone. Fair point. But using that to soften or dismiss the seriousness of NewJeans' contract violations and their refusal to comply with the injunction is problematic. Even after the court banned their activities as NJZ, the group proceeded with performances and merchandise sales. That's a clear breach of legal order. And the criticism that followed was not just a media tantrum, it was a justified public response. 3. The root of the frenzy isn't the media, it's NewJeans' actions. You say that excessive media coverage gave you whiplash, but blaming the media alone misses the point. NewJeans consistently pushed the issue into the public sphere, with press conferences, National Assembly appearances, BBC and Time interviews, and social media statements. To ignore all of that and only focus on the amount of media coverage is unfair. Ironically, it's your article that feels like an emotionally charged reaction, not reporting you are criticizing. Not the reporting you are criticizing. 4. Comparing this to Kim Sae Ron's case is inappropriate. Bringing up the tragic death of Kim Sae Ron to argue for restraint in coverage of NewJeans is not just emotional, it's dangerous. Placing a death by suicide and a contract dispute on the same level risks suppressing valid criticism under a blanket of guilt and grief. This line of reasoning can spiral into something like someone died, so stop arguing, which undermines freedom of the press and the legitimacy of public discourse. 5. Dismissing criticism as anti-Korean framing is misleading. Your article frames the backlash to NewJeans' Time interview as a result of an anti-Korean narrative. But many people took issue with their actual words, like saying Korea wants to make us revolutionaries. To many Koreans, this sounded like a distorted sense of victimhood and an unfair generalization of the entire country. This wasn't just a nationalist overreaction. It was a response to the way the message was framed and delivered. So what's the conclusion? Your article fails to confront the core issues of the NewJeans controversy. It points fingers at the media and the public while dodging any real analysis of what caused the backlash in the first place. Labeling everything as overheated doesn't erase the legitimacy of public criticism. What's really needed right now is a rational, fact-based breakdown and accountability from the people directly involved. Before calling for a cooling down, we need to reflect on why people are angry and disappointed in the first place. So, what do you think about this analysis? Was that too harsh? Let me say this again. I've long held a critical view of Korean media, K-media, and I'm not someone who believes in the kind of hostile stance that says they've built up bad karma so they deserve to get hit harder now. No, I don't like that approach because I know how terrifying it can be when Korean public opinion spirals into hysteria. In fact, for similar reasons, I wrote a lyric last year when NewJeans Minji was caught up in the so-called kalguksu controversy. I felt genuinely sorry about how far things escalated, and I ended up writing a line that defended her, something like, or maybe, what did I say? Yeah, if you don't know what the hell kalguksu is, that's fine. So what, right? I actually understood why Minji was being criticized at the time, the tension between her and the public, her dismissive attitude, but even so, I felt the backlash was excessive. That same song was also written in response to the hate directed at IVE's Chang Won-young over strawberries, how she ate strawberries, and Karina over her dating scandal, by the way. And all of it felt public hysteria being weaponized. And this This is exactly where my criticism of you, Mr. Lee, comes in. Because you, too, played a role in fueling the same hysteria. Your article today is deeply ironic because just a few months ago, you were one of the voices fanning the flames. In November 2024, you clearly sided with Heejin and NewJeans. You strongly supported Heejin's claim that NewJeans' proposal had been plagiarized by Belief Lab, quoting experts and highlighting similarities in design and strategy. What about HYBE's rebuttal? Tacked onto the end, barely mentioned. The structure of the article reinforced the idea that NewJeans were the victims. But your tone now, in your latest piece about the legal disputes, is completely different. Now you say the discourse has become strangely overheated and you sound tired of it all. You also criticize the media in this latest article. Like, journalist ethics have collapsed due to a lack of fact-checking. The media is just chasing buzzwords. Even KBS jumping in is absurd. But what about your own article on the Belief Lab plagiarism claims? If you truly had full access to both proposals, then you should have analyzed HYBE's side of the story with the same depth and seriousness. Instead, you chose to frame the entire piece from a single perspective, highlighting similarities, strengthening the plagiarism narrative. In other words, back then, you chased clicks with the pro-NewJeans article. And now that things have escalated, you step back and say things are getting too heated. That's not responsible journalism. That's classic hypocrisy. Or, as the AI bluntly put it, textbook double standards. Oh, and by the way, I've always been curious. That Belief Lab proposal and the so-called 21 team launch strategy, the year 21, that document, who exactly did you get them from? I won't press you on that, though. I doubt you'll tell us anyway. Now, if you had stopped there, Mr. Lee, we could have chalked it up to you being a journalist with a pro-NewJeans or pro-Heejin leaning. But you, or rather the outlet you belong to, took it one step further. At the time, Hankyoreh's official Twitter X account shared your article with edited images of the proposals, presented in a way that made them look like they matched perfectly. Now, for that, I'm gonna jump over to this video that I uploaded 4 months ago. And here's where it gets really juicy. Hankyoreh didn't just report the similarities. They literally photoshopped the images to make the diagrams look even more alike and posted them on their X account. See, right here? You know how like these layouts are exactly matched here? But check this out. Status analysis. Why is analysis spelled this way? Look at the spacing here. And on this article, which I assume this one is the original image, check out the spacing. They reduced the spacing so that these ellipses could be clicked like this. What's going on? I mean, they adjusted the layout to create the illusion that Belief Lab and NewJeans must be working from the same playbook or something, but without telling us they edited the images, which is a major journalistic no-no, I believe. They didn't even bother telling us they photoshopped the images, and not only does this mess with public perception, but it also dives straight into the ethical problem. And I guess they at least posted this on their social media instead of on the actual article. But I don't think that makes it less problematic, right? And with the legal case, actually, by the way, I used to swallow really loud. Sorry about that. Going on. Hankyoreh might want to tread carefully. If Belief Lab wins their lawsuit, Hankyoreh could end up in hot water for spreading misleading info. I mean, journalism is supposed to be about transparency, but I guess Hankyoreh thought, why let facts ruin a good story? I don't know. And now, this journalist, Lee Jung-guk, has a bit of a history with HYBE, and by history I mean several articles taking shots at them.
Right? A little bit more.
And in fact, when HYBE released the third quarter earnings, the net profit did decrease, but for a reason, right? It's mostly because of the SM Entertainment stocks that they invested in, whose valuation decreased significantly during the third quarters, right? But some media, including Hankyoreh, portrayed it as if HYBE is falling apart by saying, the net profits decreased by 98%, when in fact on that day HYBE stock rose, right? Now, also, funny enough, when it comes to NewJeans' legal conflict with the former Adore employee over the sexual harassment case, he has not written a single article.
He never covered.
In fact, Hankyoreh is one of two major news media, along with KBS, that has never covered this issue. NewJeans versus Adore former employee over a sexual harassment case. I have mentioned this, a few times on my channel, right? And KBS is the one who has deleted an article saying that NewJeans knew about NewJeans live streaming and tried to stop them, but never did, right? And they have taken down probably for a reason, and that became a whole another controversy because people are demanding KBS to explain clearly why they have taken it down without making a correction or making a separate announcement, right? But Hankyoreh is another media that has never covered this case about sexual harassment, with the former employee, right? So, yeah.
Okay, there we go. So, in particular, the way the Belief Lab proposed image was edited, eliminating the spacing between the title and the circular graphic, made it particularly clear that the visual layout had been intentionally altered to strengthen the impression of plagiarism. But later, as you know, the court issued a very clear judgment. It's difficult to view this as plagiarism. The concept itself is not clearly protected under intellectual property law. So what we have here is a piece that presented similarity as fact without sufficient legal basis, which could fall under the category of misleading or distorted reporting by journalistic standards. Now, next. After your article, after Hankyoreh's tweet was posted, an onslaught of malicious comments followed. Like people said, they just basically colored in the lines. Go to hell. Let's light candles. Suing NewJeans, you scumbags. And then a bunch of people saying, Belief Lab apologized to NewJeans. And this quickly escalated beyond criticism into targeted abuse. And the fact that it all began with Hankyoreh's tweet is no small matter. AI analysis put it this way. A tweet by a media outlet is not a personal opinion. It's a public media action. Considering the timing, editing, and layout, it's fair to say a specific narrative was being deliberately shaped. And since you have covered the HYBE NewJeans conflict for quite some time, I assume you were well aware of how much online abuse ILLIT members received. There was even a moment when Won-hee was accused of faking an injury because people said the direction of her crutch looked wrong. She was mocked for putting on a show, a genuinely cruel moment that many people seem to forget. Now,
When we look back from today's perspective, it's hard not to notice the double standard between your article from last year and the one you have published now. In November 2024, you fully align with Heejin and NewJeans, helping to spread a negative frame against ILLIT. But now, in March 2025, you say the public response is overheated and even bizarre, shifting the blame onto media coverage itself. According to AI analysis, this is a clear double standard. Criticism is valid, but it's hard to take seriously when it comes from the same journalist who helped create the frenzy and is now stepping back, pretending to be above it all. Let's go back to the plagiarism narrative that you and Hankyoreh helped amplify. The court has been absolutely clear. It is difficult to view this as plagiarism, and the concept itself is not something that can easily be protected under the law. And ironically, I suspect Heejin herself knew that all along. She didn't pursue it as a legal claim. Instead, she used a plagiarism accusation as a strategic tool to provoke fear and launch a public witch hunt against HYBE, according to the evidence and receipts presented by Kim and Jung, or HYBE's or Adore's legal representative. Even so, both you and your outlet repeatedly use the word plagiarism in headlines, articles, and tweets, leading the public to a very specific conclusion. This wasn't just reporting. It was narrative construction under the guise of journalism, and it's a clear abuse of media influence. And here's how the AI concluded its analysis. Violation of journalistic ethics, framing tactics, and no accountability. You presented one-sided claims as facts before the situation had been fully verified. Your article and tweet helped push public opinion in a specific direction. And after the court ruling collapsed the foundation of your reporting, you didn't issue a correction or even acknowledge that you may have overstepped. Instead, you blamed the public for being too heated. That's not responsible journalism. That's a serious breach of public trust. Now, some readers have pointed out the uncomfortable moment in your article where you brought up the tragic passing of actress Kim Sae Ron. And when I saw that, I couldn't help but remember that it was you who also reported on how NewJeans mentioned the Jeju air disaster in court. So now I wonder, is it a stretch to say that there's a pattern here? That using tragedy for rhetorical effects has become part of your style? I'll leave that to others to decide. I'll be wrapping up this letter now. Mr. Lee, you are certainly free to write as a NewJeans fan. Whether or not that's professionally appropriate is another matter. Just as you have consistently published a large number of articles critical of HYBE, I've been covering the Adore, NewJeans, Heejin situation for months, as both a fan of HYBE artists and a HYBE shareholder. And in doing so, I have come to understand the perspectives of different media outlets and reporters, how each chooses to frame HYBE, Heejin, and NewJeans. I don't have an issue with criticism of HYBE, as long as it's rooted in facts. A smart investor should understand not just the strengths of a company, but also its flaws. Criticism, when it's fair, helps a company grow. At the same time, I've also witnessed how easily Korean media can twist narratives, even gang up unfairly, and how real people can become collateral damage in the process. And that's exactly how I view your latest article. Yes, you're pointing out that the media and public have gone too far. But that's precisely why it feels so ironic, because you are the one who published a plagiarism exclusive on ILLIT, and your framing triggered a wave of hate and online abuse. And now you're saying things have gotten out of control? You criticize irresponsible journalism, but seem aware that you have played a part in it. You published emotionally charged commentary with little factual grounding, and you have stayed silent about the public outrage that your own plagiarism frame helped create. One last thing I would like to ask. If you truly cared about NewJeans as a fan, wouldn't you have written at least one article examining NewJeans' troubling behavior and repeated patterns? The fact that you haven't suggests maybe, just maybe, it's not NewJeans you're trying to protect, but NewJeans. And that question isn't just for you. I believe it's something the entire fandom, bunnies, those who claim to be defending NewJeans while uncritically supporting NewJeans, also needs to ask themselves today. I used to be a big fan of NewJeans too. In that sense, you and I may have more in common than it seems, beyond just how we see the media. Of course, for me, that fandom is now past tense, while for you, it appears to be ongoing. But if you truly are a fan of NewJeans and not of NewJeans, I hope you'll consider writing something that actually helps the girls walk a better, clearer path. I support Korean journalists. I don't like the term press trash or 기레기, and I don't think every YouTuber covering current issues is a cyber wrecker either. 사이버레카. Everyone plays a role, and everyone has their own struggles. If we all had just a bit more mutual respect, maybe this country could become a little less harsh. I'm not saying we need to believe in, the so-called phrase, we are the world. But I like to believe that small changes in how we treat each other can still matter. Wishing you the best. Thank you.